Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about The Handmaid's Tale, Season 1, Episode 5. It's called Faithful. Full spoilers for the episode, as always. So right away we started in a very interesting place, I thought, with this one. Because we started with another Scrabble game. We see they're kind of a bit more comfortable together.
Yeah, I mean, the dialogue says it's happened. It's the 30-something game, I believe.
I think it was even
So,
that. I think it was like the 48th or something
oh, maybe.
silly like that.
But either way, it
Yeah.
shows a bit of time's passed. This has
But
been a regular
the fact that
occurrence.
she's drinking booze in the scene for a start, and she's smiling, it was
Yeah,
saying all kinds of things, and she was talking in the narration about how he likes when she flirts, and it's like, oh right, this has been going on. This is about time has passed. This is setting things up. And I actually have to applaud them for how almost every single plot ties into the name of the episode. Everything is about being faithful and unfaithful. It's kind of glorious, just how. Just
yeah,
how tight it is in that sense. All the episodes have been quite tight. They've all had a focus, but this one just stuck out because every single plot line you could relate to that word. But
yeah. You're right.
and he whips out a magazine, an old like beauty magazine or whatever, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to read it?" And she's like,
Yeah,
"Yeah." And she, in the narration, she's like, "Oh, I used to get this at the airport, or when I was waiting for my hair to be done, or something like that."
yeah,
And she talks about what it's like to see like the models now when she's not seen a woman look like that in however long it's been.
yeah. And she mentions to him that she thought they were all destroyed, and he says, "Not all of us hate the old things." So,
Yeah, which I think sets you up to think, oh, maybe he's a bit more, maybe he's not as an advent believer of what's going on.
yeah, he's a little bit more progressive,
Yeah.
perhaps.
He kind of shatters that a little bit later on when
Yep.
she comes into the room and they have kind of a dispute, and she almost goes one bit too far. 'Cause I was kind of waiting for it when she said something that he would not approve of. Like,
Yeah, it was only a matter of time, wasn't it?
yeah, you've crossed the line, and he steps in.
Hmm.
But he basically sums it up by saying, "Oh, making the world a better place doesn't mean it's better for everyone. It's always worse for someone."
Yeah.
But he believes in what they're doing and whatnot. So obviously from the commander point of view, and we got more of this, like he's getting closer to her. He wants to the point where we have the scene, the ceremony in this one. There's a point where he starts making eye contact and he starts like touching her leg, and it's in a more of a erotic
Yeah,
way.
he's pretty into it this time.
Yeah, and he wants, and she's like terrified, looking up at Joy and seeing if she's noticing that he's doing this because he's not meant to. This is going to really upset her if she catches this.
Yeah.
The whole thing. But obviously, the main plot of the episode is that Serena Joy, actually kind of mirroring what the doctor from the last episode said, is that he might not be able to impregnate you. He might be sterile. So we need to try different avenues, and she even like presents it as, oh, we don't want you to be sent away to the colonies, like, and she's been kind of rough on her. She's been very antagonistic towards offering. So it's kind of like, is this like a small sign of humanity kind of creeping through, where she doesn't want her to be punished for it? Because at least deep down she knows it's not her fault. Like
Yeah.
she's not delusional enough to think that it's her fault if he can't get her pregnant. And she's like, yeah, we'll try someone else. Someone close who we trust. Nick.
Yeah, you knew exactly who it
Yeah.
was going to be because there's only one other man that we've seen.
Yeah. Yeah. He's already agreed to it. So, and obviously, again, it's part of the great direction. As soon as she says the name, like, you get that close up of offering right up in the face. It's like the world's just gone. It's just her thoughts. And I don't even think she has any narration right at that exact moment, but you can feel like you feel like you can hear them anyway.
Yeah.
You can hear the silence in their thoughts, as strange as that sounds. You're right in her head, and and this is weird because she's like, "Oh, we need to do it this afternoon. This is when it's a good time to do it." And it's when she's leading her up, Joy's leading her up the stairs into his place above the garage, and in her narration she's like, "Oh, this is weird. This has happened with the commander so many times, but this is the first time I've felt like I've been cheating on my husband."
Yeah.
And it's because we know there's actually a little bit of an attraction. There's a little bit
Yeah,
of
she
chemistry.
does like him to some degree. Like
Yeah.
we've seen that since the first episode.
Yeah, at the very least, she suspects that he likes her,
Yes.
in the traditional sense, and she, at the very least, accepts that, and at the very least, kind of, I mean, maybe flattered's not the right word, but in the current circumstance,
Yeah, I think she certainly played it up a little bit as well in terms of when she gets rides, she actually talks to him.
Yeah, because he comes in when she's eating like her breakfast or whatever before the offer's made by Joy, and she almost like gives like a little smirk and like says, "Oh, are you following me?" Because one of those really nice things is that she reads that article in the magazine. It's like, oh, 10 things to notice if the guy likes you, like number one, and she says that with the commander. So, oh, he gives you small presents, check. And then in the next scene when Nick comes in and he's like, "Oh, I'm just into use the sink or whatever." And she's like, "Oh, reason number two, he'll make excuses to accidentally bump into you more often."
Yeah.
And nah, so that was, again, it was playing up these old values, or from our point of view, present day values in this world, and her thinking that way and looking out for these signs. And obviously the actual scene is the most awkward thing in the world because Joy insists on still being there.
Yes.
She doesn't hold her like she normally does or anything like that, but she stands there. One of the little directing touches that I really loved is Offerin's walking towards the bed. Because she comes in and everyone's sort of standing quietly and she's like, "Oh, there's no time for the usual prayer, the bollocks, the ceremony, all of it. Nah, just off with it."
Yeah,
basically.
You can see Joy doesn't actually care about any of that. She just wants the kid.
Yeah. And it's almost like, oh yeah, have sex with some other guy and stop having sex with my husband for a change. Like, you almost feel like the part of that's also in there.
Yeah.
But whatever. But one of the things I love about the directing is she's walking towards the bed. It's this wide shot, right? And it's tracking back as offering. So she's walking towards the camera, essentially. The camera's tracking back, and she's going towards the bed. Now, it's not actually that big a room, but it feels huge because as the camera's tracking back, it's above the garage, so you can see the beams for the roof. It's like an attic kind of thing where you see the beams, and as the camera's coming back, you just keep seeing these beams appear into the frame, and it gives this impression of it being much bigger than it actually is. It feels like a long walk. It feels like, even though it's only like 10 feet, it feels like that walk to the bed is this long walk down like death row. It's kind of this perfect kind of build of tension for it. It's great.
Yes, it's pretty great. Like you say, it feels like so much bigger than it is, and it takes a long time actually. This walk.
Yeah, it does.
She walks really slowly, and like I said, the camera moves quite slowly as well, and the whole thing takes a lot longer than you'd think just for a walk across the room.
And this is before the ceremony scene with the commander. And there's a little moment where it's very awkward. He does it just as quickly as he can, and it's very, again, no emotion or anything. Except, of course, when they're awkwardly looking into each other's eyes, there's this weird thing of, oh, we actually kind of like each other, but this is really weird and awkward and not, it's not quite hitting where it's supposed to be. But there's that small moment at the end when he finishes, and she just kind of touches his arm, just a little bit, just...
Yeah, but she's actively looking away for most of it. She's like, nope, don't want to be complicit in this.
Well, because she's never been in this room before. She's not meant to be in this room, so she starts looking out around the cabinets and the tables and seeing what's there. She sees his gun, she sees these other things, and so on. And obviously, the flashbacks, which, oh man, I don't want to compare this to Arrow, it's so not fair, but the flashbacks in this are so relevant and are so important to what's going on. It is insane. Because this one, it's the story of how she met her husband and how that was a courtship. And at first I was thinking, because the reveal's kind of later on, it's not until the later scene where you actually see them on a date where you realise that he was married at the time.
Okay, I got it sort of earlier than that. I mean, because he's buying 2 hot dogs. They talk about him being, with someone there.
I never really noticed it, but regardless, I just took it as it tied into the courtship, because it was kind of like what the commander was doing in terms of courting her in this weird way, and this was how it used to be. But then as it goes on, it becomes more clear that he is being unfaithful to a wife. They're just as they say, they're just out for lunch, but they know they both feel something, so they're kind of they're at it.
But it's the same way, obviously, that when she's having sex with Nick, it's like she says, "Oh, I felt like she was cheating on him," and it does mirror it quite nicely, because it's, even though she has to do this, and she's technically not doing anything wrong, she still feels it. And it's the same way that when they're having their lunch, it's like, okay, they're not really doing anything wrong, but they both know.
Yeah, they both know they're up to no good, and then they're talking hypotheticals, and credit to them, they have good chemistry. You can kind of tell they're falling for each other, and obviously the contrast of the sex scene in the flashback where they have sex for the first time, versus every other sex scene we've seen in this show up until this point, including the ones, the 2 earlier ones in this episode. It's just like night and day. It's like, no, this is sex. Because even to the point where she says to him, "Oh, I like to be on top. If this is just one time, I want to be on top." And of course I'm thinking, just, 50-50, flip halfway. Like, trust them to last more than a couple of minutes. It was basically my thinking on the situation. But that idea that she's allowed to be on top, like, she didn't get to be on top in this new world. No one in Gilead's letting the women be on top.
Yeah, no chance.
There's no cowgirl going on. It's just, this is not a thing, because that makes them seem like they're the powerful ones.
Exactly.
Kind of thing, which is stupid, but that's the implication. That's how they're reading into it. So again, everything parallels so well. And of course, the other big thing about being faithful, maybe not in terms of a romantic way or a sexual way, but she has this imagination, like sort of these fantasies throughout, where she's talking to Joy when she's getting the offer early on in the episode, and she's like, I could just grab those garden shears and just shove them into her neck.
Yeah, but ultimately she's faithful to the family, essentially.
Yeah, to bring it back into the idea of faithfulness. But that's another running thing throughout, is she has this idea, and later on when she comes back, and we'll talk about the scene at the market just in a second, but when she comes back and speaks to Joy, and Joy asks her about what she saw, and you can see her glancing over at the little pruning shears, and she's like, And it's like, she doesn't say anything this time, but she's just looking at them. The camera just lingers on them just long enough, so you notice them, and you're like, she's thinking about stabbing her. Because, of course, what she saw at the market, the original off Glenn, who's now off Stephen, I'm going to call it Emily, to make life simple.
It really made me realise, actually, what the naming system is. I hadn't clocked before.
Oh, yeah, it's the last part of the commander's name. Like, their last name.
Yeah, it's of something, so it's literally their belonging.
Yeah.
They belong. They are the belonging of Stephen in this case. I never noticed it because obviously she's off Fred, so because it's the double F, it doesn't. You don't look at it the same way. And then I never noticed with Glenn for some reason, but now I've seen it with off Stephen. It was so blatant. I was like, oh, okay, I get it.
Okay. No, I kind of got that it was based on the name of the person. Because otherwise, why would it still... when Off Glenn 2.0 showed up, why is it still Off Glenn? Like, why not just give her a new name? I think it was... to me, that was based on the name of the...
Yeah, see, at that point,
family.
I just thought it was a symbolic thing. Like, oh, no, she's just replacing her. And so I thought they'd done it for that reason. I didn't realise it was literal his name.
So we'll call her Emily, just because... Let's not keep track of all these of names. And she's back at the market, and Offred goes up, talks to her, and she finds out about something called May Day. The resistance is called May Day. I thought she was talking about a day, like it was building up to a day in May or something like that at first. But no, it's just the...
When she said May Day, you think of, planes going down.
Oh no, I thought of that as well, but it was the way she never specified, like, if it was the name of something.
Right, okay.
I thought it was going to be one of those things where you think it's one thing, but it turns out to just be a descriptor. Like, it's building up to May the 1st, like something big is going to happen on May the 1st.
Oh, fair enough.
I don't know. But it turns out to just be the name of the resistance. And Emily's basically like, I can't be like someone who's involved with them. I'm too suspicious now. The eyes are on me because of everything that's happened. And what I thought was interesting is her Joy, whatever the name would be, seems to be kind to her, a lot kinder than we see Joy being to Offred, because she basically says, "Oh, we could probably skip the ceremony tonight. I'm not feeling very well," and it's like, you can't be unwell every month, and she's like, "I know." It's like they actually have a good relationship almost. Maybe kind of still awkward, maybe still cold, but certainly she was trying to like make her feel better and.
Yeah, she was actively trying to do something nice for her and protecting her, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it's very different to what we've seen with Offred and Joy.
Which is interesting, because they knew Off Glenn kicks up a little fuss because she's like, "Oh, don't pull that shit again where you went off and talked to your old friend." Like, she actually talks about how this world's better for her because she was a junkie and she was prostituting herself to make money for drugs, and now she's clean, now she has a safe place to sleep, she has a family who's nice to her. Like, she actually kind of likes this control, and I think that's maybe a commentary, of course, on how this type of system does benefit some people.
Yeah, that's kind of the point when the commander says, some people are worse off, but others are better. She, obviously, while we look at it from the outside, and in the same way Offred looks at her and goes, "No, this is worse. We are subjugated to this." She personally feels that she's better.
because she couldn't control herself, so the system keeps control of her now.
Yeah.
Essentially, and that kind of gets her through. So she looks at it as almost a positive. She's happy. At the very least, she's happy enough that she doesn't want to risk it. Doesn't want to risk being carted off and all that.
It's the idea that highlights the curse of freedom and free will, that you can make mistakes and end up in an awful place. Whereas here, she physically can't. She just is, and she exists, and she feels safer because of it.
Yeah. So that was interesting. But obviously, at the market, it's the second time we see her in public with Dillas off Glen. Give us a bit more information, Mayday, and whatever. And she keeps noticing the cars. Like you're dropping off the the various wives and things, and she makes a beeline for a car, and she jumps in the car and she starts just driving. And I thought it was going to be a thing where she just got out at the end. She was going to drive, cause a bit of a ruckus, and then get out. Just so she made a choice to do something wild that she wanted to do. She wanted to take something into her own hands and have a moment of a fantasy. And because these women have clearly not been allowed to drive since all this went down. This would be like a big thing that she got to control a car just for a minute, right? But then it escalated, and she ran back into one of the soldiers, and then in the most gloriously brutal scene ever, rolled back over him and completely splatted his head. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I questioned a little bit if she was going fast enough to have quite that effect, but I don't care because it looked great.
It looked great. Obviously, the fan in horror movies and me is coming out here because I'm like, yeah, the head exploded.
Yeah, it did look good.
It was beautiful.
But I was like, you were 4 feet away at a dead stop, and come on, you gotta get some speed going. That car cannot go that quick.
Yeah, and it was. Well, a couple of things I really liked about it is just from Offred's point of view is that she was kind of smiling through this because she knew she was going to get in trouble. Like, she knew Emily was going to get shit for this, right?
Yeah.
But she was kind of smiling through it because it was like this just flight of freedom. It was showing. It kind of reminded me to compare it to a movie, which I doubt you've seen, but Cool Hand Luke. You've heard of it probably.
I've heard of it. Yeah,
Paul Newman. So it's about a guy who goes to prison, and the whole movie is basically about the guards trying to break his spirit. And this is essentially her kind of in that role where it's like, it doesn't matter what they do, they are not breaking my spirit. Like, because I think Offred at even one point in our narration even says, yeah, they took her away from herself, but there's still some of it in there. Like, taking like her sexual pleasure away does not take her character away. She's still her.
Yeah, pleasant. I think it was the end of the last episode where they all came out, and it was hopeful. And it's that idea that she was taking one for the team. She was doing something she knew she'd get in trouble, but it inspired all of them in a way that they all see this. It was very public, and they all see, no, we can have power if we, make a dash for it, sort of thing.
Yeah, and because she knows she can't be covert anymore, because like she says, there's too many eyes on her, so it gives them this one kind of moment of hope. Of course, all the smiles kind of fade when she actually splats the guy's head. It's like, oh, that was kind of brutal. Oh dear. Of course,
I mean, at least they're all wearing red, so no blood's going to show on that too much.
This is true. All this riveting stuff. The obviously we should mention after the flashback sex, she's just I should say June, rather than Offred, says, "Oh, I want you to leave your wife, because this is real. This isn't just a fling. We kind of feel things here." And then I like that he immediately just went, "Yeah, okay," as if it was nothing.
Yeah.
But they kind of have this thing where we see how well they communicate up until this point, where they clearly are saying things without saying it, that they are clearly connecting. And because we've seen what they're like in the future, and we know that they're good together, that he basically dies trying to help his family and so on. Like, or at least he appears to die. I don't think we actually saw him go down. We heard shots and...
Yeah, no, because they left him and we stayed with her and the kid.
Yeah. So they could reveal... I wouldn't be surprised if we get a reveal at some point that he's...
Yeah, I get that. But my problem is, what purpose do they have to keep him alive? Unless he has some valuable skill we don't know about.
Sure, from a logic reason. I'm just saying, for a plot twist reason, and for a drama to shock her, to shock Offred into like a wee, oh shit, it's my husband, I can see why he would show up again.
I can as well. I just hope that if they do that, they tell me why he was left alive in the first place, because they've shown that they're very brutal and efficient, and they only keep the handmaids alive when they're doing this stuff because they're valuable. So what value did he have?
Like you say, maybe he has a skill. Maybe he happens to be I don't know, someone who can build warheads or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think we knew anything about his job, right?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't remember what his job is. Maybe it's been mentioned or not. But no. So even when they first meet, though, the whole scene revolves around like Moira like forcing him to help pick a Tinder photo. The idea of Tinder, the idea of choice, like being able to swipe left or right, is just like something they don't have anymore. It's just these simple little things that keep reinforcing the core themes, the core ideas, without it being the exact same thing that we've already seen.
And also more confirming what sort of time period we were in when this all went wrong, because Tinder was a thing.
Yeah, it basically means that things started to go down present day or just after present day, like maybe
like very near future from now, sort of thing.
very near future kind of thing. Yeah. So that's good. Obviously, the one thing we've not got to. So she goes in, offering goes in, and confronts the commander. We talked about him kind of giving his speech about, it benefits some but not everyone. He believes in the cause.
I thought it was very interesting. He kept saying, "We did this." It wasn't someone else has done this and he's taking benefit. He kept referring to, "We changed things. We made things better."
Yeah, I think he's involved. I think the other part is, though, he specifically talks about Offglen/Emily and about making the choice. Like, he was involved in the decision making about her, and he says, "Oh, we're not without mercy," because they let her live, and I think that's clearly pointing to his role in this society. That he's important. He's not just like one of the lowered down pencil pushers. He's actually someone who's involved in making these decisions.
Yeah, he's got some weight, at least at the local level.
Yeah, at least and the local government will call it. So that was interesting. But of course, that's kind of obviously this affects her. She comes out of the room. She feels hopeless because I think the start of the episode it feels like she's in a bit more control with him. Like she can come in here, she can drink, she can read, she can debate things with him. She can crack jokes. She can do all these things.
She feels comfortable.
Yeah, but by the end of this scene, it's the complete opposite. It's completely flipped her. She feels like it was all a fallacy. It was all a lie. It was all him just trying to build a connection that really wasn't there. And she's like, she's crying. She's against the wall, and that's when she remembers what Emily did, and that she took this moment. Now she's not necessarily going to do something that will completely immediately just jeopardize her standing and get her into trouble. But she's going to take a risk. She's going to do something for her, something where she can take control and do it. And she goes over back to the next place, comes in, and basically just strips him down and halves at it in the final scene. And again, mirroring the other sex scenes in the episode, because there's 4 in total. There's 1 in the flashback, and then there's 3 present day sex scenes. 2 of them with Nick.
Yes.
This one is more like the flashback one. This feels like a real sex scene. It's essential. They're passionate, they're into it, they're letting their feelings show, and they care about it. And even the lighting, like the first scene with the 2 of them, it's this harsh beams of daylight coming in through the window.
Yeah, whereas here it's much softer. It's night with gentle lights.
Yeah, it's romantic. It's warmer.
Yeah. And obviously she goes on top, which I was surprised took as long as it did in the scene. Frankly, I thought she was just going to go straight on top.
I get it. I like it though because it's like a transition of power.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
It works, but I was surprised because it was almost like she was aware she had it, but still waited.
And also,
she didn't realize straight away.
It's also worth pointing out here that she strips down as well, and that's very important because, of course, even the commander who's having sex with her on a however weekly, monthly basis.
Monthly, I think, yeah.
Probably monthly with her cycle, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, like, is there any harm in trying it, like extra times? But in any case, she like starts stripping down. She takes off her hat and she lets her hair down, which we've not seen outside of the flashbacks. Obviously, she lets her hair go down. She almost flaps it around like a model almost as she lets it down, and she takes her clothes off, and she even gets topless, which I think is relevant. I think it's important that this is the first scene, even though there's been so many sex scenes in this episode alone, 4 sex scenes. But the first time we actually see her is that it's kind of like the first episode, comparing it to when she said to Emily, "Oh, it's nice to finally meet you." It's kind of like that, where this is the first time she actually is actually being sexual. She's actually. Yeah. This is the first time I've seen consensual sex.
Yeah, I think my only problem in respect is that it made it a little bit weird that she wasn't like that with her husband in the scene we'd had earlier. Like, I feel like it would have paralleled even nicer if she'd been, more overtly undressed there as well.
Yeah, I think for me that kind of work. I can kind of explain that a little bit. And the flashbacks tend to be snippets, and they tend to be a bit more abstract. Like yeah, even just in general with the camera cuts, like the camera work is different. The camera work isn't as long takes. It's not as these subtle artistic things. It tends to be a lot more closer up, kind of almost documentary-esque kind of a
Yeah,
feel to it.
yeah, yeah, you're right.
And I think the way it's sped through, because the text scene just kind of starts and you don't see the actual scene.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, I think, went on longer and it showed you everything because it was. And I think in contrast, and actually, here's why it works, right? The flashback scene, we see them fall in love, and we see the connection through dialogue, through how they connect with each other, through the courtship, through all of that. In this modern world, they don't get to do that. It's basically all pent up. It's basically bottled up feelings and rage and sexual frustration. It's all bottled. They don't really get to express themselves, and they still shouldn't be, but they take this chance, she takes this chance, and does it in this scene.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, I think...
I can't argue with any of that. I just think for me, the parallel would have worked nicer if we'd seen it, be a more direct parallel than we had with her husband, because he is kind of... The commander isn't replacing her husband, but he almost is to her at this point.
Yeah, which is why, again, I think the husband popping up at some point and having the fallout of this could be interesting. I mean, if anything, I would expect he got away before being killed and he's part of Mayday. That would be the obvious guess.
Yeah, but I think that'd be almost boring. I think it's more interesting if he ended up captured and, they put him through a torture camp sort of thing and turned him. And now he's one of them.
It depends what they want to do. I feel like either him or Moira are going to be the cliffhanger at the end of the season.
Yeah.
One of them's actually alive. They're in the system or they're in the resistance, and that'll be the thing.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But no, so obviously that's the final scene, very powerful. We should mention, of course, there was that scene in the middle where she flat out asks Nick if he's the eye, because she's concerned. Because she asks Emily again, like, you said there was an eye, is it him? Do we know if it's him? Is he going to report things? And he actually flat out just says yes.
Which makes me question if he actually is, or if he's just saying that.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not entirely sure if he is. I feel like he might have just be saying that to... Because the way he says right after, he's like, oh, so go back upstairs now before I report it. It just kind of felt like he was throwing his weight around and not actually...
That was what I got as well. It's like, yeah, he could be, and this could be just genuine and him, using it as a position and saying that, or it could be him going, I can do something with this, and it make me seem more important than I am.
Yeah, I think that works. But so obviously, even with her thinking he is the eye, she's taking an even bigger risk. But if he is the eye, she's banking on him having these feelings, and she can connect on a human level, and it'll stop him from doing his normal, reporting duty. But no. So once again, this show continues to give us a lot to chew over.
It is. And you were just speculating then about her husband being part of Mayday. She mentions that he once told her what Mayday meant. Where the term came from.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, maybe he's like the leader. Maybe he named it.
I'd almost feel a little bit too coincidental if he's the leader of this resistance.
Yeah. But just because they mentioned that, he has knowledge of where this phrase has come from. It's not just something random to him because we know this now. Would make it set up nicely.
Yeah, that's at least maybe a thematic touch that links it to him maybe being in Mayday.
Yeah.
I could see it. So I hope we see more of Emily soon. I was really glad to have her back, and I'm really curious to see what her new story is. Like, are they going to go Clockwork Orange style and like have her like brainwashed?
Yeah, because you still think, right, so they still can't kill her because she's too valuable.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, is there a point where even her value isn't worth this, and they do it anyway? Like, is there a limit? Do they even know that yet? Because how many people are trying this? How many people are stealing cars and running over soldiers? Yeah, you have to assume not that many.
Yeah, no, I imagine so. But no, another great episode. Again, a lot of good character beats, a lot of little things in there. Actually, one small one we didn't mention actually is when Offred actually talks back to Joy and kind of gets away with it. Because when she's going back out of the room after the thing with Nick, and it's like literally right after she just walked back in the house, and she's like, and Joy's like, "Oh, how do you feel?" And she gives like she's like, "Oh, I'm not in the mood for this," and she just lets it with, "You don't feel pregnant 30 seconds after the guy comes." And it's like this, like, catty comeback. It's like, "Shut up, you stupid cow." Was basically the and there's a moment, and she storms up to you, like, "Oh my god, what's she going to do to her?" And she tries to apologize, and she just starts reciting like a prayer about pregnancy and knowing and the woman, all the rest of it. But you really think that, because we've seen her get pissed before.
Yeah. I think it was a passage from the Bible, like a lot of the other stuff they've.
I'm sure it is. Yeah,
and it's the idea of, you're supposed to know, and it was kind of like, I don't care what you say, you will know, and you're going to tell me when you know.
And of course she's done this before. She's had a kid before. She knows she doesn't feel it right away. She knows when to expect to start feeling things.
Yeah.
And she does go up and throw up, but I don't think that's to do with being pregnant. I think because it's too quick, and B, I think it's more about just feeling sick about everything that's going on. I think
yeah, because that happens right after she leaves the Commanders, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to place it in my mind. I'm pretty sure that's right after all that happens, before she goes down to Nick. So
which means she's kissing Nick and she's got puke breath.
Yeah.
And he's like, "I don't get any in this new, dystopian world. I'll just have to take it."
Yeah.
It tastes like chicken.
Everything tastes like chicken if you try hard enough.
No, really good. Obviously, we're hitting like 30 minutes of conversation every single episode for good reason. It's filled with good character motivations, direction to talk about, and stuff like that. So that is Handmaid's Tale episode 5. Let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. You can help us out, of course, by liking and subscribing and all that kind of stuff. You can also help us out if you want to go one step further by heading over to patreon.com/mildfuzztv. And there's some cool bonuses there if you want to help out. But if not, no worries. All the other stuff does help too. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. Individual Twitters are on the screen. But that's us, guys. So thank you once again for watching. Have you got any vanilla?